Hello, everybody. I wanted to talk to you guys about Christ consciousness and where my state of mind been for the past going on 3 years. I've been doing a lot of studying and self work and self searching to tell everyone that we are in a state of consciousness now that's a God given consciousness, and we have to tune into self to find his vision of peace for us when he created us. So I put a few things together and done some research, and just wanted to talk to you guys a bit about it. Consciousness, a state of awareness or perception by the person in the mind of itself and in the world that it is in. Conscious self must be aware of itself to compute and reiterate information within itself. One must analyze conscious self to get a better perception on the received information. The mind process receives information from input in the sensory organs, which transforms physical stimuli such as touch, sound wave, or photons of light into electrochemical signals. Attention is the behavior and cognitive process of selective concentrating on a discrete aspect of information, whether deemed subjective, which is based on or influenced by personal feeling or opinions, or objective, which is not influenced by personal feeling or on opinions and considering along with respecting facts while ignoring other perceivable information. It is a state of insight. To explain the five sensory modalities, it is important to understand how we pinpoint selective attention. Modality is a mode in which something exists, experienced, or expressed. Take Anne Treisman Attenuation Theory, for example. Our sensory register, also known as sensory memory, refers to the first and most immediate form of memory you have. The sensory register is your ultra short term memory that takes in sensory information through your five senses and holds it for no more than a few seconds, leading to next step of the perceptual process in the sequence of steps that a person uses to organize and interpret information from the outside world. The steps are objects are present in the world. A person observes. The person uses perception to select objects to interpret the meaning of the object. Meaning causes awareness to the conscious mind. Furthermore, proceeding to the attenuation process, which assigns meaning to unattended objects, is just not high priority according to the person's meaning. When you realize the unattended objects are important, you switch over your attention to other cognitive process reaction. The sensory information is repeatedly transformed by the algorithms of the brain in both bottom up and top down processing. For instance, when looking at a square speaker, on a black sheet background, bottom up processing puts together very simple information such as color, orientation, and where the borders of the object are, where the color changes remarkably over a short space to decide that you are seeing a speaker. Top-down processing uses the decision made at some steps of the bottom-up process to speed up your recognition of the speaker. Top-down processing in this example might help you identify the object as a blue speaker rather than a box-shaped square in the black background. Once information is processed to a degree, an attention filter decides how important the signal is and which cognitive it should it should be made available to. Algorithms is an ambiguous specification of how to solve a class of problems. Algorithms can perform calculations, data processing, and automated reasoning tasks. Once the information is reasonable, the process becomes fast. Furthermore, the process or set of rules to be followed in calculation or other problem solving operations are set by time, the law of nature. Some would put the law of nature as the Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio, which is two quantities are in the golden ratio if their ratio is the same as the ratio of their sum to be larger of the two quantities. 1 + 1 is 2. 1 + 1 is 2. 1 + 2 is 3. 2 + 3 is 5. 3 + 5 is 8, and so on and so forth. Discovered and named after Leonardo Fibonacci, which can be found in many forms in nature, such as a human embryo. We are born in a sequence that forms us individually. Fibonacci numbers mark key points in the human aging and development process, as illustrated in the following table, based on insight provided by Norman S. Rose, Ph.D. As a projector, we project what we want from our mind based on how we feel and our physical age. 0 is conception, 1 newborn, 1 infant, 2 toddler, which is talking, expressing, 3 toddler, self-image, control, toilet training, 5 early child, formal education, 8 middle child, um, which is aging, reasoning, knowing right from wrong, 13 adolescent, thinking, puberty, sex drive, maturity, 21 young adult, full physically grown, 34 mid adult, refinement of adult skills, 55 elderly, fulfilled of adult skills. That's how we develop during our time here from embryo to basically our elder age until we wither away. And when we reiterate time, that's when we develop our inner conscious to get higher. It gets higher when you reiterate positively, which coincides with having Christ consciousness. Our physical state of mind affects us emotionally through our conscious self, which reflects our conscious self-image, which forth build the mind's ego. And that's how we build our ego when we are learning to reiterate time according to our physical being. And when you reiterate on your conscious self, you have to stay positive and knowing that you're on a positive rhythm within nature because you were formed in a set DNA order according to how everything is developing in a sequence where the universe had a set system when he created us and said basically let there be, as far as how Christians say it, but we know that it was actually a form we had to go through a process in the universal system on our development. And as I developed through my journey, I realized that I was on a self-searching journey within myself. I had to get rid of my ego and actually learn who Tim was by tuning into myself and following the teachings of Christ and learning that it was actually a service. And there's actually 7 levels of personal consciousness, which is survival, relationship, self-esteem, transformation, internal cohesion, making a difference, service. And service is consciousness level 7, which is Christ consciousness, which is service to humanity and the planet, which is a mindset of self-preservation. And God being the first conscious entity, he had to have service to humanity and the planet, because the planet is where we live in our home, and he gave us dominion over it because we're able to interpret how his intellect was to preserve the creation that he created. So to keep on his line of track of conscious thinking, we also had to have the service consciousness, which is Christ consciousness, to serve humanity and the planet, which means we have a all-seeing eye view, bird's eye view of how our system works by seeing that it's a service to preserve who we are as human beings. And starting at survival, you will see that we were actually like cavemen in our conscious being at the time. So we had to tune in to see where we were actually at by actually seeing who we are first. And the first thing that we notice that's going on with our bodies is our heartbeat. And when you forget that you have a heartbeat and you're going on more on protecting self-image as far as your flesh, you have a different perspective of life where it's only about survival of the self-image instead of having the service consciousness, which is serving others as you would serve yourself. And you will serve others based on how you serve human beings, or serve them how, where you clean the environment, or you're a person who studies the solar system and you're trying to come up with solutions to prevent anything happening to the planet. So a it's a conscious being on how you feel love should be towards self. And once you put that in perspective, you will see how it's a conscious being of service to others. As you understand love, you give love better because you know it's not about you, it's about the service of love. As God serviced us, because when he created us, he gave us dominion over the earth, which gave us our minerals, our nature, our food, energy, basically everything we need to survive here as a human being, so we can live a full life until death. And reciting time in God's state of mind of service, he speaks highly of himself, which means we should speak highly of ourselves as individuals and as society to keep us on the self-preservation of love. When you keep self-preservation of love, you keep self-preservation of nature itself and our bodies and the way we eat, the way we think, the way we see the animals and how we have to preserve them or they will go extinct. And seeing that they can go extinct means we can also go extinct if we don't keep a positive mindset of self. So keeping that in mind, I've been noticing a difference in my perception of of how I see the world now. And when I reached the state of service, I noticed that poverty was not meant to be on our conscious level, because if we all serving love, nobody will be without love. So seeing that we have poverty and people go without food and go without water and go without shelter and going without a family, because we all, the majority of us, I would say, are to desire the closeness of another human being, whether it be a friendship or be your parents, the first ones who you meet when you're born, and so on and so forth. As you go along, you meet friends, and you want to get married, and then you want to project yourself, uh, conceiving and having another conscious human being that you have to keep, that you have to preserve as their parent, because it's about keeping them alive, more than anything when you have a child, because you see them as a projection of you, but they're not you, they're their own conscious being. And seeing that we have a system where not everybody has the ability to provide the essential needs to themselves, let alone their kids, it's not a place for that. That's Poverty is not a place for our society where we can all service each other and we can all spread the resources, which gave me the idea how to attack poverty with my vision of peace on this conscious level, and seeing that in society, if we put poverty, service to poverty, and seeing debt to poverty, is put the service to the debt, and it will cover where we're lacking, because it's not really about the material, it's about the service to preserve human beings, so we can project ourselves. As long as we are here, it still has to go on whether I'm alive or not. So my purpose should be preserving it, and not even making a name for myself, but having the mindset to preserve what was here before I was even born. So I should be humbled enough to even be here, because if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't have that experience to see what He created. So growing up, I saw a few epidemics in my life where, growing up in the hood, I had a few people and close people, and also involved in myself as a child, that we were a lot of people are in a state of mind where they even feel like the family is hating on them, because I've had so many stories of people tell me that they've been touched as a kid, and how their parents didn't love them, and how their siblings don't even get along, being siblings touching siblings, and cousins touching cousins, and uncles and aunties and grandpas, and everybody's dealing with mental problems because they had no sense of that situation that happened. So it turned into ego. So now you got to protect yourself, because you feel like nobody loved you, and you feel like you only had yourself. So you try to protect the outer side of you instead of the innocent side of you, which you thought was taken from you at that moment. So having God here to place His Son to die on the cross for us, He had to make sure that the innocence was protected at all costs, because it was the kids that was our future, because that's future heaven. When we leave, they're still going to have to be here to deal with whatever we didn't handle. So we have to sit up in God's face and explain to him why explain to him why explain to him why we have his house looking the way it do, and everybody having these tragic stories they're mentally trying to climb out of. And going through my journey, I see a lot of people on the streets fighting for their life through their mental state of mind. And I was just putting this vision together to point out how we have to climb out through our conscious self before we could climb out physically, instead of trying to cover for where we fell short. I also written this piece right here, Love and Peace. It says, everyone has their own definition of love, but what is true love? Love is something not seen, but most searched for. Love can be felt by every living thing, so love cannot be denied to be real. So, what is real love in the eyes of the beholder? There are many different types of love one can experience, but one can't say the main individual can be one of these components and feel love, but still feel like something is missing if the other components are not involved. Is one to say that is one to say to have true love is to have all three components: intimacy, passion, and commitment. What is your ideal love? I believe one should be able to identify love, to be able to experience the full effect of love. And able to do that, I believe love starts within oneself. You can identify with love by having a true love of God within yourself. Knowing how to love yourself will teach you how you are as an individual. Then one must ask themselves, what is true love? To answer the question, most people fail to realize you can ask love itself. There is no greater love than love itself to teach you about love. You learn what love is by learning who God is for yourself. As you walk through your journey with Him, He reveals who He is to you. True love reveals itself to you, and in that, you begin to learn true love and is unconditional love. True love comes without conditions because true love comes without conditions because it's true to itself. Once we get a better understanding of God's love, we can get a better understanding of love itself and how to apply it in our lives. Don't go out looking for love because you'll never find it. Love is a state of being in our design. We must become the love we are looking for. Give love and you'll receive it. Sometimes not receiving it in the place you give it, love can come back in many different forms. Love begins with the inner self. As God works with the inner man, He is teaching you to love Him within yourself. But for Him to work with the inner part of yourself, you have to fall as much in love with Him as He is with you. We are made in the image of God within us to reflect His characteristics. As He reveals who He is to us, He reveals who we are to ourselves. We are to be honest with ourselves as He is honest with us. God is looking for a perfect heart who is truly searching for a connection with Him. I am myself continuing on my journey and not completely there yet, but I would say it is worth every step to get to know the one who created all things. So in this journey, I've been learning a lot about Him with myself and trying to share it with you, and that's how He keeps the love flowing throughout history, and that's how He keeps us self-preserved with self-love. So it starts with self, knowing that how much He loves us and how He loves Himself. I have to feel the same way about myself as I do His creation. So going taking the time to put this vision together, I'm hoping to push forward this message to put an awareness out there where we can actually get rid of poverty and crime if we put our minds to it, but we have to come to a solution where we have to get rid of division because that's where we're messing up at. We're putting physical ailments over our spiritual conscious ailments, and it's kind of tearing us apart personally and as a whole. So I'm hoping to put the vision of unity out there with my videos, and I will continue to do so for the rest of my life, seeing that I am sitting with God and Him showing Himself through me. So I hope you guys learned something from this video. I will put more information below on my Vision of Peace Foundation that I'm putting together. I will put some more videos together to show you how I am attacking property. I am also on the board of Dare to Care, which you can donate to. We're looking for sponsors, which gives food, clothes, and hygiene products, also vocational training to people in need. I will put that link below as well. Thank you and have a good day.